Big Dash knows what?
Hello and welcome to Big Dash Knows. Big Dash knows what? New York Giants football. Let's go. Today's topic. You know what? Today's topic is about a few things. Just want to talk about a few things New York Giants wise that are going on right now. In the previous 3 episodes of the podcast, I talked about, the Odell Beckham saga. I talked about, possibly taking a center at 25. John Michael Schmitz is a guy that I'm eyeballing about that, in that episode. And also talked about Joe Shane and what is Joe Shane doing when, in reference to the free agency pickups and things like that. But I also want to just talk about not just the Giants. I want to talk about the NFC East. So I think that's what this topic is going to be about. This episode is going to be about the NFC East. And, So, obviously, Philadelphia Eagles went to the Super Bowl and lost. Thank God for that. The Dallas Cowboys, won a playoff game. New York Giants won a playoff game, lost in the divisional round. And then, the Washington Commanders, for a point in time, or in the playoffs, and then ultimately, kind of went down at the end and didn't end up making it. So for overall, it's just like, the NFC East is becoming more and more competitive. Teams are on the rise. We went from being the NFC least, the nickname, to being, competitive, to almost having 4 teams in the playoffs. And that's a fantastic move, especially from where we came from. And for the New York Giants, it's all about the coaching. It's all about the GMing. It's all about, getting players in the building. It's all about buying into the system, buying into the scheme, trusting these coaches, and having players that are willing to die for each other out there on the field, or at least I would say willing to ride for each other out there on the field. And you see the team camaraderie between the players. You even see it in social media. These guys seem like they like each other. They seem like their friends are hanging out with each other outside of just the facility. And that's things that you love to see. I can't say the same thing about the Cowboys because I don't follow the players like that, or any other team, in the division. But when it comes to on the field play, I think that the NFC East is going to be good for a while, going to be competitive for a while. And it's because of, the players in the division. Now, when it comes to the New York Giants, and how we can improve even more, I just think about how they attacked the wide receiver room, and what they did in the wide receiver room. No fantastic signings, star players getting brought in, no big ticket players, anything like that. What they did was they kept the room solid. Quality depth. Some people might be angry at the Slayton contract, but it's incentive laced. Not a lot of guaranteed money. Same thing for Paris Campbell, which I love that pickup. If you followed me, you know that I mentioned his names months ago about being a possible target for the New York Giants, and I'm happy that he's here. I think he brings that element where you have a guy that's fast but can also be a crisp route runner. When you look at Darius Slayton is a fast guy, but not the best route runner. A guy like Paris Campbell brings you that extra element and can get that separation that you're looking for off of his route running. When Darius Slayton is more of a, scheme you open type of guy. And that's no knock on Darius Slayton. It just is what it is when I'm looking at the guys play. Obviously, the pickup of Darren Waller at the tight end, we're praying for the best, hoping that he can get back to form with all, he had a couple, not so good years due to injury. But again, that man steps on the field and you're thinking about the division, and he's probably the best tight end in the division. I know Dallas has a couple tight ends. I know Philadelphia has Goddard, but you can't compare a guy like Goddard to Waller. It's just different. There's levels to this. There's levels to it. But that's only if you can get the Waller that you expect, that you've seen, with the Raiders. And like I said, I'm praying for the best for that, because if he can get back to form and be that guy for the New York Giants, that makes the whole team better. It makes Daniel Jones better. It makes Saquon Barkley better, because you can no longer have 8 people in the box. You can no longer have 8 people in the box with Waller. They have to account for Waller. And then when you have a guy like Paris Campbell, even though he had injury-filled seasons his first 3 years, last year was his first fully healthy year, and he played all 17 games. And he had pretty good numbers, and that was playing in Indianapolis with that horrible quarterback situation that they were going through. So when you add guys like that to this roster, and you have the scheming of Kafka and Dable, it's you almost feel like sky's the limit. But none of that matters if you do not fix that offensive line. And again, we saw videos of Evan Neal. He has his own personal coach now. He's training in this new stance, his new set. And you appreciate that this man is putting in that hard work to try to be better, to work on his craft, to be everything he can be for the New York Giants. But for me, I'm still looking at that interior offensive line. Glowinski, started off pretty well, but then, kind of fell off. Feliciano is no longer here, but I don't think anybody is crying over the loss of Feliciano. And then the question mark at the left guard as well. Is Azudu going to be back in time? Outside of that, is Ben Bredesen really going to move to center, or is he going to be the left guard? Shane Lemieux still on the team. What's going on with that? Tyree Phillips is a tackle, but can he be bumped in to play guard? Marcus McKeithen coming off a knee injury. What's going to happen there? What are we going to do in the draft? And then, that's the biggest question mark. So we can have expectations of the New York Giants being better. I can say all the time, screaming at the top of my lungs, that Daniel Jones is going to be better. But the main issue and what needs to happen is this interior lineman. This interior line needs to be fixed. And everybody says that. And I don't want to go back to the same talk that I was doing in episode 2. But I have to say a couple things. Everybody that's a New York Giants fan can agree that the interior line play was not up to par. There were some good games, some good plays, some good pull blocking by Feliciano, but as a whole for the season, the main complaint, or one of the main complaints, was poor interior line play, amongst other things as well. But I think that has to be a major target. Now, going into the draft, and you see reports that the New York Giants are taking this wide receiver to dinner, taking that wide receiver to dinner, top prospects, the top 30 dinners, and all that other stuff, right? And they are. Almost every wide receiver that has a first round grade on them, the New York Giants are taking them to dinner prior to their pro day. And I believe they took Quentin Johnston out to eat prior to his pro day, and then he turned around and ran like a 4.5 in his pro day. So what are they feeding this guy at this dinner? Was the steak too heavy? Was it sitting on his stomach too hard the next day? Pause. But again, is it a smokescreen that the New York Giants are looking at wide receivers? So many wide receivers. Everybody thinks the New York Giants are going to go wide receiver in the first round. What happens? Maybe it's a smokescreen. Maybe Joe Shane is trying to lay that trap like he did last year when rumors went out that Kayvon Thibodeau possibly couldn't be a fit in New York City or fit with the New York Giants. You know what I mean? And then people are doubting his work ethic, saying that he was taking plays off on the field. And I'm watching games of Kayvon Thibodeau. I'm like, what are people talking about? Where are they getting this information from? And it's crazy too, because when you're sitting there and you're the type that that watch games, watch film cut-ups and things like that, and you hear certain things that don't seem to be true to you, you're like, where's this information coming from? I've been watching this guy for a while. I don't see him taking plays off. I see the hustle, I see the burst, I see what he can do, I see that he can put moves together. What's happening here? And I think that's like smokescreen. So now you look at everything you look at tells you that the New York Giants are possibly going to go wide receiver at 25. Now, here's the thing. They could absolutely do that. But that's a lot of smoke, man. That's a lot of smoke focused at one position. And are they doing that? Because we know what happens, man. The New York Giants have a history of not being able to hold water. It gets out that the New York Giants are looking at this certain player, and then what happens? We get jumped. and that player gets picked up by another team. It's happened year after year after year. And last year was probably the first year that it didn't really happen, because again, the smoke screen went out there that the New York Giants weren't interested in Kayvon Thibodeau. But when it came time to that, for that 5th pick, and Kayvon Thibodeau was sitting right there, what did they do? They went and got him. And I'm so thankful that they did. And I think that Kayvon Thibodeau is going to have a even better season next year. Again, another guy that you can see that's putting in the work, hustling, working on his craft, doing everything that he has to do to make himself better for the team. And I'm like, you know what? I enjoy all of this. I like the way this team is being formed, put together. If we can address certain positions, I think it's all going to be good. It's all going to be good. I see positive things. And then I look at, the rest of the division. The Philadelphia Eagles, they lose 2 coordinators, offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator. They lost a couple of free agents. They were able to bring some guys in as well. They lost Gardner Johnson, but then they picked up Greedy Williams. Not a fair trade, but still a guy with talent that they brought in. Believe they lost a safety, lost a linebacker, lost a defensive tackle, but they draft so well. They draft so well that they already have people in the building that are probably going to replace the people that left. Now, they did keep both cornerbacks, kind of on the older side. We'll see what happens. We know that at some point in time, cornerbacks fall off a cliff. And will this be the year that they fall off a cliff? I don't know. Bradbury, Darius Slay, we'll see what happens with that. But again, no lack of talent with the Philadelphia Eagles. For the Dallas Cowboys, they lose their offensive coordinator. He goes to the Los Angeles Chargers. Mike McCarthy seems like he's going to be the one that calls the plays this year, and then that means there's no more hiding. There's no more fall guy for the Dallas Cowboys when it comes to that offense. I'm hearing people complaining about Dak Prescott not having enough weapons. He needs more weapons. Get Dak more weapons. Meanwhile, when I look at that Dallas team, they're full of weapons. Pollard, CeeDee Lamb, the endless carousel of tight ends, backup wide receivers as well. They seem pretty stacked in my opinion. But again, people saying that Dak needs more weapons, and it could be so. A lot. Who wants a lack of weapons? Who's going to turn down more weapons? Nobody's going to do that. Nobody's going to do that. So I can see why people are saying that. And then when it comes to the Commanders have a fully stacked team. Offense, defense, they got it all when you really think about it. When you peel back the layers, the Commanders have a complete roster, but the only thing is they don't have a quarterback. They don't have a quarterback. They're going to try out Sam Howell, it looks like. Everybody's saying that Sam Howell's going to possibly be the number one quarterback going into, the offseason, OTAs, training camp, stuff like that. Here's the thing. They have pick 16. And as much as they say that Sam Howell is their quarterback, if one of these quarterbacks fall to 16, I wouldn't be surprised if the Washington Commanders took a quarterback. Not at all. Not at all. I mean, Sam Howell is Sam Howell. Sam Howell is a good prospect, but Sam Howell does not stop you from drafting, one of these top-end quarterbacks. At least I wouldn't think that Sam Howell would do that. But again, it's the Washington Commanders. They're going under new management. They just added a new offensive coordinator in Eric Bieniemy. And as long as Lamar Jackson does not end up on the Commanders, I'm not worried about what the Commanders are going to do. Hopefully they don't have the money to afford or don't want to give up the draft capital for Lamar Jackson. So I'm going to hold on to faith and just hope that, that doesn't happen. That doesn't happen. But getting back to the Giants, getting back to this 2023 season, man, I'm excited to see what's going to happen. I'm excited for Daniel Jones in the second season. I'm excited for Mike Kafka to, continue to, introduce these plays, these schemes that he, that are influenced by Kansas City, Andy Reid, Bieniemy, if so. I can't wait to see that. Brian Dable as well. I can't wait to see Wink Martindale with another cornerback, with a dominant cornerback, and more pieces on that defense. That way his scheme can work to the best of his ability. I can't wait to see things like that. I can't wait. Yeah, man, I just can't wait to see what these New York Giants are going to be in 2023. But again, it all starts with the offensive line. It all comes back like Thanos says, after all that, it all comes back to the offensive line and what we do there. And again, there's still some guys out there on the market that are interior linemen. Ben Powers is one, Connor McGovern's one at center. Do we go that route? Do we wait a little bit longer to see if the price tag comes down on some of these guys, or to see if they even want to play? Ben Powers is 33 years old. Connor McGovern's 29. Do they still want to play? More Ben Powers than Connor McGovern, because Connor McGovern, like I said, is 29, so he might want to play a little bit more. But Ben Powers, does he want to play more football? But I think you have to address that center position. And again, we saw Joe Shane at the owners meeting, a couple of interviews. They ask him about the center position. He starts running off names like Derek Anderson, Ben Bredesen, Shane Lemieux, all these guys being potential centers. And in the back of my mind, I'm like, oh my gosh, what the heck is going on? Now, I'm a Ben Bredesen fan. He won me over this past year. That first year we got him, I was like, yeah, okay, we got him. But this past year, even with the injury, when he played left guard, he played it very well. The line as a unit was substantially better when he was playing, and they had the musical chairs between him and Nick Gates, which I didn't understand. Because for me, once Nick Gates got healthy and had a couple of games under his belt, he should have been the starting center after that. He should have been the starting center after that, but we know how it is. They brought Feliciano from Buffalo to play the center role, and then, is it favorites? Is it a game of favorites between Bobby Johnson and Brian Dable playing Feliciano for so long, or was it just Feliciano was the best center at the time? You can argue both. You can argue both of those things. But to me, once Ben Bredesen was solidified at left guard, there was no need for the musical chairs between him and Nick Gates. And then, like I said, why not push Nick Gates back to center? And then you see we lose both Nick Gates to the Commanders, John Feliciano to the 49ers. And it's like, we're stuck with Ben Bredesen. We have to address this position. We have to do something about this interior offensive line. There's a lot of question marks. Who's going to play the other guard? We have a lot of guys coming back off injury, but who's going to be the guy that solidifies that left guard spot? Especially, because I would say Bredesen easy, but especially since they're talking about moving Bredesen to center. So just some question marks, just some ideas about, going into next season, what the New York Giants are going to do, especially, with this roster. Now, I will say this. I don't think the season's going to go the same where the Giants only win one game in a division. I can see a world where the New York Giants go 3-3 in the division. I can see a world possibly if the Giants can possibly sweep a team and then go 4-2 in the division. What I don't want to see is another one-win game in the division. I think 3-3 is a possibility, and I think that especially now that the NFC East is waking up and the NFL is paying attention to that, and the NFC East is getting that recognition throughout the league, I think that they have to. The New York Giants have to win games in this division because it was a down year for the NFC. That's why, at one point in time, all four teams in the NFC East were in the playoffs. I don't think the same thing happens. Some other teams are on the rise. Detroit is definitely on the rise. Minnesota is still Minnesota. People are liking Chicago and the moves that they're making. I don't see it too much with Chicago, to be honest. Don't know what's going to happen in the NFC South. Could it be the Saints now that they have Derek Carr? I think they're still lacking talent. The Atlanta Falcons, what are they going to do? Carolina Panthers have a new coach. They got the number 1 pick. It's a lot of question marks when it comes to the NFC, and we really don't know what's going to happen there. But when I tell you that I'm excited to see exactly what the New York Giants are going to do, I absolutely mean it. I'm excited, man. And then, we're 4 weeks away from the draft now. And I think it all starts there. And then after that, how we address that offensive line will give me more of the storyline of where I think the New York Giants are going to be. But I'm going to go ahead and end this episode here. I want to thank everybody for vibing with me. I want to thank all the support too, because you guys are liking these podcasts. The views are going up a little bit, and I appreciate everybody for that. So, and also, if this is your first time listening, I want to thank you, and also hit that like and subscribe button. The channel is growing, and it's all because of you. I like to get this work out to all the New York Giants fan base and things like that. Also, anything you want me to discuss or talk about, if you want to talk about this episode or this video, go ahead and put it in the comments down below. Anything that you want to see, go ahead and put that in the comments down below too. And also, one thing I want to do is, I do want to do a mock draft that I'm not using, one of those simulators for, because I want to talk about, because sometimes you guys kill me when you talk about, some of the players I picked, or guys that I missed, or why didn't I take this certain position, or I went the whole draft without drafting a linebacker, things like that. I love all these comments, and I try to make it a point to say that, when it comes to the simulator, you have a certain group of players that are left that are in that scale and in that range, and kind of hamstring what you want to do. So I do want to do a mock draft where I'm just picking the players, not using a draft simulator, thinking about guys that are being that range for each pick in each round, and then taking the best guy that I think is a fit for the Giants, whether it's BPA, whether it's positional value, whether it fills a need as well. I like to do a mixture of all those things. I do want to do a video like that. So again, I want to thank you guys for vibing with me. Please like, comment, and subscribe. And from one Giants fan to another, this is Big Dash Knows, Big Blue Nation. Let's go.